Welcome back again. We are in a place to be, the place that is, decorated with the gold and green couches, the infamous couches. We go by the name of Conversations with C&C. This is the podcast, the place, the forum where we chop it up and have deep dialogue pertaining to matters connected to race, therapy and culture. And those three pillars are always going to be the underpinning of our dialogue and conversations, which sometimes include guests. But sometimes it's just myself and Doc, Carl, and we chop it up. And it will be a time where we explore. So there'll be elements of exploration, times we share our experience, both professionally and personally. And at times where appropriate, we'll share some of our expertise. We are a part of the village, and we're just grateful that you are here again with us, whether that is listening or, viewing, however you're taking it in. We thank you because you could be doing anything else today. So my name's Claude. I am an integrative therapist, amongst many other things. I'm a father. And I'm just happy to be here with the guy who doesn't need introducing, but I will introduce him. The sage, the wise one, the one who shares nuggets without even realizing he's sharing nuggets. Very dear friend and brother of mine, who I call Doc. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes. Wonderful introduction as always, my brother. Such a blessing to be here again. As you say, chop it up. Looking forward to that. I go by the name of Carl Barge, psychotherapist, private practice, as well as lecturer, tutor, trainer. We got to get all of those things because one moniker doesn't fit all. It doesn't fit all. So. Clinical supervisor. I just want to put that in there because it's very topical. This is clinical supervision is very topical. It tends to be more so what I'm doing over the summer or have been doing, which is good. Yeah.
So Doc, it's us today, and I'm hearing the many hats.
Yes,
many hats that the diverse portfolio. The different realms and places that you're operating in, which is great. And I do recall, I think I've said it in season 1. I do recall Sean Carter, Jay-Z saying that we weren't blessed with the disease of being able to do only one thing. When sometimes people's lanyards that they wear around their neck, or their job titles or qualifications, or the status quo of the sector that they're in, or other people's expectations, or the limitations that may be placed on them for whatever reasons, that you can only do this one thing. And I think as two friends and brothers, I can humbly, confidently and respectfully say we weren't blessed with that disease of being able to do one thing.
That's powerful, man. Yeah. That's rich. That's rich. When you break it down like that. And I guess what that reminds me of, something I was reading about George Washington, the first president of the United States. And the article was talking about, Florida trying to regurgitate the history of slavery and on and on and on. And they're trying to say that, George Washington is perhaps the first abolitionist. Well, he had quite a number of slaves, and he was not one to grant them their freedom. Yes. And I'm going, it's a long drawn out thing, but I'll get to the point. My point being is that he had men on his plantation who were, competitors. They had all manner of different skill set, but he kept it to himself. He kept that skill set to himself. But the thing is, he would loan out those individuals to his neighbors because they weren't getting paid, you know? And I just imagine, and when you were saying that, my imagination went back to there, because I know that they would have had many, many skill sets at their master's disposal, you know? And fast forwarded, and then I'm thinking how fortunate we are today to be able to sit here and discuss these things and to put on the many different hats. The gentleman's name was Morris, who was the slave, who, you know, he became an overseer as well. So he would have been managing and looking over other slaves during that time. We're talking mid 1700s here, you know, maybe a little bit later. And yes, I find it fascinating that, you know, how far we have come, but also when we consider it, how much further we still need to go. Yeah. We still need to go further. It's not enough. It's not enough. So it's kind of drawn out, and but I think it's, for me, it's you know, what you said about the, you know, us with, you know, that word that we use in season 2, pivot. The pivot. How often we do have to pivot.
Yeah.
How often we have to, we can't just sit on our laurels.
Yeah.
We have to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Because we recognize the gifting that we do have. And, you know, we've had conversations this week, whereas we're referring to each other and to the wider community as well.
Yeah.
You know, because we recognize the value that we each bring, and we just want to, we want to bring the people along with us. We want to bring them along, not kicking and screaming, dragging. You know, you don't want to drag them up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because as you speak, 2 things come to mind. I was watching an interview, and the rap group, you know, the rap group, the Locks, Jada, Styles, and P, and one of them, I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it may have been Styles. Jada, Styles, and Chic. And I think it was Chic that was being interviewed, and they were speaking about segregation in schools in Yonkers only ended in 1988. That was...
Yeah.
I was 8 in 1988. You know, we hold no punches about our age. We're not, you know. But I was 8, and I was just like, wow, that was the other day. And then something comes to mind. I recall, I remember at the time, you know, first kind of entering the sector, and you know, with no qualifications at the time. You know, the CV was as blank as that white wall behind you. And I remember wanting to do an information advice and guidance course, which was an MVQ course at the time for anyone who kind of was providing information, advice and guidance to young people or adults would have to do. It was kind of like a recommended, almost like the standard status quo. And the level 3 was the standard status quo that many, you know, practitioners had within the Venn connections and service. Remember connections, that would have been in every borough, providing, you know, support to young people. And I remember at the time just looking at myself and my experience. So I've been working a few years with young people, and, you know, was building, I guess, like a little bit of a positive reputation. I was like, okay, cool, I now need to, you know, show myself approved and get some qualifications. It's now time to move up to the next level. And I remember, you know, this is no slight to my manager at the time, you know, but she had a level 3. And I remember I said, you know what, thinking about being a black male, no qualifications, thinking about sometimes where there may be potential glass ceilings. And I was like, do you know what, I'm going to do the level 4. And I remember there was a bit of a fight, you know, for me to be able to do the level 4. And, you know, it's a bit of push and pull. And, you know, I believe there were some insecurities going on for, you know, some individuals. And they, you know, had to lobby why I needed and wanted to do the level 4. And fortunately, I was able to do the level 4.
Okay.
And that was, you know, many years back. But I just say that to say, as you were speaking and just thinking about the kind of limitations sometimes that can be placed on you, whether they come from self or from the establishment and systems that you're in. And it was almost like, you know, how dare you, why do you want to do the level 4? And the status quo is the level 3. And from then I just always remembered, you know, I'm never gonna, in this sector, I'm never gonna do the status quo. You know, you know, it's, I know we haven't done our traditional check-in yet, but this is how it goes. But yeah, I'm never gonna just do the status quo. Like, and sometimes it's, you know, people like, yeah, you become qualified as a therapist, you rent your little office, your little room, you see your clients, and that's what therapy looks like. You know, but just from the check-in, like the introduction, the many hats, like therapy can be extremely diverse, the avenues and the realms, you know, it's not just in a room, seeing a client, how many clients you see a day and that's it for the whole week. Like it's so diverse.
It is.
You know, so I think, yeah, as you said that, those kind of strands came to mind.
That's so rich. And, you know, I think what's really important is that inner drive that you had from the beginning. That's something that's been with you from a long time ago, even before then, right?
Yeah.
But knowing even then, level 3 is not enough. I want to excel.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, I believe a lot of us have that mindset.
Yeah.
That mindset that this won't be good enough for me as a black man. And I had that same conversation with self when I completed the level 4 at Lambeth College. This will not be enough. And had to lobby. I lobbied, went to Roehampton and lobbied the I believe his name, Dale Lowenstall, lobbied him 2005, 2006. I've just finished the level 4. I'm qualified. I'm a qualified counselor, but I feel that I need further training, further qualification. And we had a nice long conversation, and afterwards he said, okay, well, I'll take you on to year 3. You know, we have a cohort already going. They've been together. So, you know, you would have to ingratiate yourself into this group that have been together for 2 years.
Yeah.
And come the September, I entered into the year 3 on the level 6 degree. What was the title of the course? It was Integrative Counseling. Integrative Counseling, yeah, degree. BSc Integrative Counseling. Year 3. So I did my year, and during that year, we may have shared with the listeners previously, that year was, that year really shaped me, and it shaped me in the context of, this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because of the racism that I experienced on that 3rd year. Because as I said, I had to ingratiate myself into this group. There was, for me, you know, hindsight being, you know, what it is, for me, I was tolerated. I was tolerated, and especially bringing in certain themes around race and culture, ethnicity, in 06. In these counseling courses, it wasn't something that was much time was given or devoted to it. And as I said, I'm qualified, so I'm coming out of Lambeth College off of this intercultural approach to psychotherapy and counseling, I am, I'm bona fide. I'm ready. I'm looking at this thing like, as I got my beret on. I'm a Black Panther for counseling right now. You know what I mean? I need to. I want us to be seen. You have to see me now. But you have to listen to me, because these are themes that are back then, aren't they? They're back then themes. So now I'm armed. This is the thing. I'm armed and dangerous because I have just a snapshot of an understanding of what it is I'm supposed to be doing as a therapist. So I have this awareness now, and that when we talk about believers, we say discernment. But for people out there who perhaps your faith is your faith is not Christianity or whatever, let's call it I was sagacious. I had this keen sense of perception that I know where this dialogue is going when it comes to being seen, or when it comes to expressing yourself explicitly around the things of race. And something that stays with me, has stuck with me all of those years ago, is me bringing it into that space and being called a racist in the training room. When diversity was being discussed, looked at as the expert, right? Because I'm the only Black male in the group. There's an African sister, there's a South Asian sister there, and I mention that to say that they had already been together for those 2 years, so there was an acceptance. I would say there was an acceptance, but also when we talk about Black and brown people and us ingratiating ourselves into that white space, it's going to be done in ways to keep themselves safe. So I would have imagined, and I did get a hint of that when it blew up, that the sister told me, the African sister said to me, well, there's evidence on both sides. So again, I don't think you heard what they said to me, or what your peer said when we were talking about this, and she said, well, I live in Portsmouth, and all of the crime is committed by little Black and brown kids. Nothing, I challenged that. It didn't come from anywhere else. So people are not, the people in that group, they had formed this nexus, but it had been formed again with that real entrenched Eurocentric view of what psychotherapy and counseling should look like. And the subject of difference, diversity, that was, for me, on that particular year course, it was a tick box exercise. I say it openly, I say it directly, that's what it was.
When you say it was a tick box exercise from their perspective, so we're doing this just to tick the diversity box. I say, again, with the sagacity of being sagacious, that these courses, they had to put something in. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I say it was tick box because there was no preparation.
Yeah.
They didn't come with anything. They didn't come with anything that was going to challenge the individuals in that room. Put it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was no challenge. And that's what I mean when they say, well, what do you say, Carl?
Yeah, the poster boy.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer, the all-knowing one for everything that's black.
I'm the oracle now.
Yeah. Oracle of blackness.
Yeah. And here's the thing again, hindsight, foresight. It's that thing of if what I know now, what I know today, if I had known back then, how I would have responded, some of the things that I could have said. You know, it's like when you go to that interview, and you think you think you did okay, you did all right.
Yeah.
But when you come out of there, and some of the questions that they've asked you, and you think about it, why didn't I say this? So I know that, but it's in that moment. It's in the moment that for some of us, we're under pressure in that interview, and a lot of things that we have perhaps even prepared for. Yeah, it's like it's in the ether. It's gone.
I want to jump in quickly.
Go ahead.
So there's a lot in what you said, but that if there was something that you could have said then,
yes,
so to give that version of Carl a voice, what would be like one thing you would have liked to have said then that you're able to say now?
As you were saying that, something popped in my head because I gave I gave a good account of myself in those moments.
Yeah.
And something that came to mind was I mentioned at that, because it would have been the Pearson Report, I think 99 it came out. So 7 years. And I said, well, and I'm talking about someone who was, I think, Fortune 500 company. She was a director, six figures a year, right? And I mentioned this to her in particular, but also to the group, because she was the one who called me a racist and for wanting to bring difference into the room. And so I said, I mentioned the report, institutional racism. These things need to be discussed openly, robustly, because again, if you're not seeing me, I'm sitting here as a black man, and you're going to sit there and say that you don't see my color, then you don't see me. Right? And the thing is, if I was and I gave them examples.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly verbatim, but I gave them examples of if I was that white person.
Yeah.
And say I was European, you wouldn't know my difference until I opened my mouth, sort of thing. So I walk around, my difference is seen each and every place I go.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning, I see that I am a black man, but you would this is something that came after, but you would say to me that I have some type of mental health issue because I don't see who I am. Yeah. But to answer that question, what could I say today? Or what could I have said back then that I know in my heart today to be true? That's a very good question. Yeah. I think something that needed to be said back then, I didn't say it, is that, and I will link this to the ethical principle, as we always talk about, is non-maleficence.
Yes.
And I would have said them directly that there's a number of my peers in this room today that I fear for the profession, because I think that you're going to do more harm to those who come into that room who don't look like you. Yeah.
it's not an uncommon experience.
Very true.
From the curriculum, the shoehorning of diversity, the concept. And we know that diversity is beyond race and ethnicity, but we're being very explicit. This is we're talking about race and ethnicity in this moment. And that experience is not uncommon for black and brown would-be potential therapists to feel like that in that space. And I think you sharing what you've just shared could be life and light to someone who is actually in that now. Or they might not even be on a course, the individual. They might be in a working environment, or, wherever they are. But I do think that, because as you were talking about, I could feel it. I could feel what you were saying, that experience of being in a room and seeing some individuals have been accepted, but had they been accepted? And then you use the word tolerated.
Yes.
Like, who wants to be tolerated?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that experience, there are people who have reached out to me and said that they've used the podcast to share as a resource to individuals who are in the same situation, who are trained to be psychotherapists and feel alone. When it comes to the concept of kind of like when race is brought up in the room, and how they feel viewed, and the pressure that they feel, and the isolation, and the othering, And so I've got a really good friend who that we studied together from about 2014 to 2017, and she's doing some phenomenal work in Manchester, and she said, "Look, Claude, I know someone and who's I've shared the resource with, because this is what they're going through on their course." And I think it links back to when we checked in at the beginning, or during the introduction. It was like, sometimes we'll share our experiences because, they can be beneficial to other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something came to me is, this is how, some people, and I don't want to, I always want to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always want to be fair, because there were people in there who allowed themselves to be vulnerable, because you can imagine some of the things that I shared with the group were going to be challenging for them to hear. So I remember one white guy who said, something along the lines, I really need to check myself, because something that he does with his little niece at the time, and he used to say, because it was something he was brought up with. He was like, he'll scare her and say, "The boogeyman is going to get you." Yeah, but the reference, or the name that he gave to the boogeyman was a racial epithet. It was a nice thing to say, but he brought it into that space and said, "This is me. I'm being vulnerable, and this is what I am. This is what I have been doing, or I am doing, or whatever the case may be." But I believe it was through the discourse that, through the challenge. That you need to. Something recently that I've started to communicate to students is that, it's always, what I say always. A lot of times I hear them say, when it comes to those weeks, because we do a good 6 weeks.
Yeah.
On all manner of things of diversity, and difference. But it was around. What did I say? It was around when you think of being a racist. I don't know what to. I don't know what to say. I know not what to say. I know not what to say, but I don't know what to say. So as a result of not knowing what to say, I say nothing. And so my response to that nowadays is when you people get on those tall horses at times, right? Those tall ones. I say to them is when someone calls you a racist and you say that you're not a racist, because that word, it stings. It has such a negative connotation to it of being called that.
Yeah.
Even to the individuals who are. All of your behavior points to that, but yet you don't want to be called that. You want to deny that. So I tell students, it is not for you to decide and tell yourself, well, I'm not a racist. Where we need to get to is, what kind of racist are you?
Okay.
Silence. Because that is a hard thing. But there's some introspection that you need to do there. You need to go do that deep dive.
Yeah.
What kind of racist are you? I've stopped talking about. I have stopped talking about so much about allyship, but I understand and recognize and recognize the importance of allyship. We need allies, right?
Yes.
We need allies. But it also touches me when it also touches something within me when we talk about allyship. But there's nothing being done. We some weeks, some months, it seems like we are moonwalking backwards, right? I've been communicating of late about being an abolitionist. That's, come on, it's that thing of, that back in the day, if you ain't with me, you're against me, sort of thing. Yeah. If you're an abolitionist, doesn't care if you're when you're black, you're brown, you're white, whoever, you don't stand for none of it. None of it. And we're looking for ways, this being one of them, we're putting our hat in the ring, brother, see, right? We're putting our hat in and saying, this is who we are.
Yeah.
We're in within this vocation. We're doing what we need to do. Private practice. We're doing our CPD. You know what I mean? We're clinical supervisors.
Come on.
We're going out there and we're putting our faces out there, our expertise, our experience, as we say. We're putting it out there for the masses, and saying that this is who we are.
Yeah, it's rich, man. It's so wake up in the morning, shake up the duvet, before making it neat. Azrael's task as well. You've got to teach them, make your bed and stuff. It's in shaking up the bed. It might, whatever, like fluff or dust or like if there's any socks, you're able to get everything out of bed before you straighten up. And I feel like we are in a time and a space where we have to shake up the status quo, the norm, and that can feel uncomfortable for the person doing the shaking and the system that is being shaped. And that lends itself to having difficult conversations. And those conversations can be difficult for both parties. But those conversations have to happen. Like, so that guy on the course, he's done his internal dialogue, like he's done his internal audit based on what you've presented, you know, and he's had to look at what he said and take that risk, you know, as you say, going from safe to unsafe. That would have been a massive moment of unsafety for him. Now, definitely not condoning what he's done but he's had to do some internal reflection, which then leads to having a difficult conversation. And I think beyond the conversation is like, what happens next? You know, so yep, I can say I'm an ally, but like, what are you actually doing? Are you an ally in private? Are you an ally in, you know, public? Like, and I think the sector that we are in will only change when we have those difficult conversations, and I say but, actually apply action. You know, that's when things begin to change. And the amount of people that get in contact with me now saying, I want to become a therapist. Like, where do I start? Like, and we've done episodes of that, right? In season 2, how to become a therapist, like the pathway, that was progression and pathways. But that's what the change looks like that person sending that DM, whether they've seen a clip or, you know, from our podcast, or, you know, I've had a conversation with someone else. But I think difficult conversations, congruent conversations,
absolutely,
is where shifts. That's the start of the shift. And where we're moving the furniture around in the room, and you know, you might be used to sitting in that seat over there, but we're gonna move. You know, like that traditional church sister, she always sat there with her, sitting there, today we're moving things around, and I think that's what we got to do if we want to see things move. And, you know, it makes me think about influence, position, who are like the course directors, who's putting curriculum together, you know, who are the lecturers, the tutors, you know, like, how does that, you know, how that plays a part, because you have your curriculum, but then you bring yourself, right, into what you do. Like, some don't, some just married to the PowerPoint that they're given, but, you know, I'm kind of jumping around here, but it makes me think of a colleague of mine who says, and I may have said this before, and if I've said it before, forgive me, but it resonates with me so much. She said, bring your whole self into the room, because when you're having a session with a client or a conversation with someone, you know, or you're at work, they might need the part of you that you've left outside. So you can't say, stop, let me just go outside and get what I've left. So I say that to say, like, you know, for us, as individuals in this space, myself and you, I feel we bring ourselves, right? So we bring ourselves into this podcast space, but when we're in our clinical supervision sessions, when we're with our clients, when we're at work, there's a power in bringing all of us. And I think when I think of the sector, sometimes, you know, there's that element of, can I bring all of myself onto the course as the student or as a tutor? You know, yeah, bring all of, I put up a post the other day and on LinkedIn just saying, when I'm not in a therapy room or delivering training, another place of solace and where I feel alive is the studio. And what music means to me, and a great brother and a friend, and I will call his name, Andre Harriet, was like, yeah, my guy, salute to Andre and Lawrence at the work that they're doing at TLG. He said, yeah, make sure you bring yourself into every role. And I think we're in a space and time where what may have been demonized before by whatever sector you're in, now bring that. That's your calling card. Don't leave that part of yourself outside of the room to assimilate, to kind of feel tolerated or accepted by who. No, you don't. Accept yourself first.
That's it.
Yeah? I think someone needs to hear that. Yeah? Accept yourself first. Yeah?
That's great.
And maybe stop waiting to be invited to the table. Yeah. Stop waiting for this moment to come. Stop singing this change gonna come. My dead brother Sam Cooke, yes. But some of us are people I'll say, I'm waiting for this moment to come. No, make it happen. Yeah, create your own table. Sometimes getting invited to the table, you're getting a napkin. You're not even getting a warm food, you're getting a little sandwich. The photo's taken, you're in that picture. It's placed in their magazine or on their website. No, people, create your own tables, man. Glean and learn what you need to from the respective sectors that you're in. But I feel like we got to stop waiting to be invited. Create your own tables, man. And you invite who you want to.
Oh, that's so insightful. Real insightful. A lot of, different, analogies and metaphors within that. And I think what stood out to me is, when talking about, what's her name? We'll give her a name. When we're talking about Sister Margaret and her seat in the church. You don't sit in her seat. And if you are sitting in her seat and she comes and she sees you, be ready. Be ready. Seen it played out, countless times. And that particular analogy there is that when you think about, sometimes we need to take other people's seat. Yeah. And I guess, some of the dialogue that we've had in this room, season 3 now, I think that we may have made people uncomfortable. So even you're black, you're brown, you're white individuals, even for us, we can be uncomfortable with these conversations. Just this past academic year, when looking at CRT, Kimberly Crenshaw, and taking students through that and their own